art galleries as we know them today did not exist in early 19th century France. One of the only venues for displaying new artwork to the public was at a large annual exhibition called the Salon. If an artist did not get accepted into that year's Salon, their work was not considered desirable or important. If an artist did not have an education from a French academy, their chance for inclusion was very slim. In this way, the Salon was an exclusive institution created by the academies for the academies. As you can see from this engraving depicting a particular year's Salon, the work in the exhibition was hung in very close clusters. This was done primarily to conserve space. If the Salon was the only place that the French could publicly display their artwork, there were a lot of artists eager to be included. The Salon style of hanging has a very different effect than the broad, even spacing that each artwork is generally given today at a museum or gallery. At the Salon, there was even an order of importance for the type of painting being displayed. Portraiture was generally hung at the lowest level because it was seen as the most common. Landscapes were hung in the middle, and the top of the wall was reserved for the large-scale history paintings. Not only were these paintings the most visible from the ground, but they depicted historical, religious, or mythological subject matter which were considered the most refined and important types of scenes. Gustave Courbet was a painter who came from a rural area of France to study art in Paris. He entered this painting, entitled The Stonebreakers, into the Salon of 1850. The piece depicts workers who break up rocks on the side of the road. Courbet passed these men on the road and invited the actual workers to pose for this painting in his studio. This work was very different than what the Salon was used to exhibiting. Instead of a moralizing image of people sacrificing themselves for the common good, Courbet's painting depicted these disenfranchised, lowly workers without idealization or nostalgia. It was accepted into the Salon of that year, but was met with very mixed reviews. This is another painting by Courbet from the same time entitled Burial at Ornans. The painting depicts a funeral in Courbet's rural home of Ornans, France. Again, this painting is made without idealization or a moralizing message. The figures themselves are actually townspeople from the funeral instead of the professional models who would normally have been selected to sit for a painting like this. The monumental scale of this painting, 10 by 22 feet, seems to reference the size of a traditional history painting. When Courbet tried to enter this painting into another large exhibit called the Exposition Universelle, it was rejected due to its commonly themes. In response to this rejection, Courbet did something that was virtually unheard of at the time. He opened his own gallery to display his work, which he named the Pavilion of Realism. Realism in the mid-19th century is considered the first modern art movement. As a specific movement, realism refers to a style of art and literature that depicts elements of ordinary existence without idealism, exoticism, or nostalgia. Essentially, what you see is what you get. As a realist, Courbet believed that art should deal with daily human life and experience rather than with perfection or higher ideals. Another term that's related to realism is naturalism. Naturalism is not a specific movement like realism, but it describes a way of depicting things as they appear in nature, without idealization. Before the mid-19th century, there was a historical precedence for making naturalistic paintings about common people. The genre painting tradition was around in Europe since the time of the Renaissance. These paintings were often whimsical in nature and were meant to elicit nostalgia. Compared to history paintings, genre paintings were seen as entertaining but historically insignificant. The difference between genre paintings of the past and Courbet's Burial at Ornans is that he intended this work to be viewed in the same regard as history painting. Even though it does not depict the funeral of an important or powerful figure, the painting's large scale and level of formal consideration create similarities to more important paintings that had come before it. Other than being the progenitor of realism and therefore the larger modernist tradition, Courbet was also an early experimenter with on-site painting. Traditionally, artists would paint all of their canvases in the studio. This again had to do with the fact that paints would have to be mixed freshly before each sitting, and it was often too difficult to manage this process outside of the artist's studio. Paints were becoming available in tubes around the time that Courbet began his work. This allowed him the freedom to pack up his supplies and paint the reality of whatever environment he chose. This painted scene by Courbet depicts the artist happening upon a pair of friends during an outdoor hike. The painted encounter is entitled "Bonjour, Monsieur Courbet." The newspaper illustrator and cartoonist Honore Daumier was also considered a French realist. He created prints and paintings that revealed certain social and political injustices faced by the common people. This painting, entitled "The Third-Class Carriage," depicts the cramped conditions faced by the poorest level of French commuters.